This is Renee Stanley from Movie Review Relay, and today we're talking about Eddington. Eddington is written and directed by Ari Aster, and he's a New Yorker. He's only 39 years old, and he is a young filmmaker. You might know him from Midsummer back in 2019, or maybe perhaps Hereditary in 2018. You also have last seen him in Beau is Afraid in 2023. Ari Aster's new film is released in 2025. It's called Eddington. It's rated R, and it's 1 hour and 48 minutes. It stars Joaquin Phoenix, Pedro Pascal, Luke Grimes, Deidre O'Connor, Michael Ward, Austin Butler, and Emma Stone. The movie is set in May 2020. Eddington is a fictional town. However, it's located in a real state of New Mexico here in the United States of America. And Eddington revolves around a certain time period of COVID-19 when there was a big dispute. Some people wanted to wear a mask to avoid getting the infection. Other people thought it wasn't necessary. Some people felt you could be healthy without the mask and that the mask should not be mandated. Of course, there were other rules that were put into place at this time. You had to stand 6 feet apart from the next person. Also, there were companies and jobs that didn't allow you to come to work unless you got vaccinated. The sheriff, Joaquin Phoenix, felt it was unnecessary to follow those rules. It should not be a law that you had to wear a mask in order to enter a store or a school or any other public facility. The sheriff, played by Joaquin Phoenix, thought this was absolutely horrific that he would have to wear a mask, and he encouraged other people not to wear one as well and refused to enforce that law. On the other hand, the mayor of Eddington said you should follow the law. Even you, the sheriff, should follow the law. And he felt that the sheriff was setting a bad example by not following the law, by not wearing a mask, and encouraging people in the community to do the same thing. Now, this should have been a very simple disagreement, but it escalated and escalated to something that was so viciously violent. And I'm saying that because it is rated R. It's a hard R, though. The first 90 minutes of the film is really a heavy drama, and it introduces you to the characters as a good film does. However, the last 45 minutes to maybe an hour, it's particularly violent. So if you are faint of heart, this is not for you. I'll just caution you that there is a full frontal scene. It's very brief toward the end of the movie, so you're prepared. And there is a conflict between a small town sheriff, played by Joaquin Phoenix. Joe Cross is his name, and not only is he the sheriff, he decides to run for mayor. The incumbent mayor is played by Pedro Pascal. His name is Ted Garcia, and he's not going to let the sheriff, the Joaquin Phoenix character, become the mayor. He's running for re-election. Joaquin Phoenix has a wife, Emma Stone, Louise Cross, and she's somewhat cold toward him. She's very free-spirited, though. She's running an online art gallery. And these works of art are very odd, and they tend to give you some insight as to her character. Louise does not give Joe the attention that he probably craves. You can tell because they show a scene where they're in bed briefly, and she's a little cold, maybe a little distant toward him. Louise has a mother, Dawn, and she's played by Deidre O'Connell, who is very much a part of the lives of her and her husband. She seems not interested in having children with our sheriff, but he appears to want some, and without spoiling this picture, it's inferred that maybe she wanted children but not with him. You can message me or leave it in the comments, but it appears to me that perhaps Louise did want children, however she didn't want it with her husband, the sheriff. Deidre O'Connor plays the mother-in-law. She is a conspiracy theorist. However, she has more in common with her son-in-law, sheriff, than she does her daughter. And while she is friendly toward Joe, she criticizes him just like most mother-in-laws do. Joaquin Phoenix character Joe Cross has 2 other officers who work with him. One of the officers are played by Luke Grimes. The character's name is Guy, and he appears to be the type of officer who tries to follow the commands of his sheriff, his boss, and therefore his thinking is very similar to the way that our guy, the sheriff, thinks. Sometimes he seems a little mean-spirited, but you look at the film and tell me what you think. The other gentleman, Michael Ward, he's younger, and I believe he's a trainee, so he's trying to follow the rules. Pedro Pascal's character, Eddington's mayor, he has a son. His son is played by Matt Gomez. Eddington boasts a fine cast. All the performances were wonderful. The director, top-notch. However, you may not be ready for the dark film's ending and conclusion. I'll just say it like that. 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. Eddington easily comes up at a 3, and give it an extra star if you love Ari Aster like there's no tomorrow. Eddington is distributed by A24. Smurfs is a 2025 animated musical comedy film. It's based on the Smurfs comic book. It was created by Belgian comic artist Peyo. Smurfs 2025 stars Rihanna, who also produces the film, and it also stars George Corden, Nick Offerman, J.P. Karliak, Daniel Levy, Amy Sedaris, Natasha Lyon, Sanya Oh, Jimmy Kimmel, Octavia Spencer, Nick Kroll, Hannah Waddingham, Alex Winter, Maya Erskine, Kurt Russell, and John Goodman. If you're in a mood for a good family film, Smurfs 2025 is a wonderful choice. Papa Smurf is kidnapped, and now Smurfette and her companion friend must go into the real world to try to retrieve him. At the same time, Papa Smurf has this book that can guide the direction of the universe. And now, Smurfette and her friends must find Papa Smurf and the book in order to save the universe. So this is a wonderful adventure for young kids. Children love this film. Don't worry about the plot being overly complicated and things of that nature. The children were mesmerized by the beautiful colors, and they love those blue little creatures, the Smurfs. So that's the main action. It's for an audience of children, as you know. It's rated PG, and it runs 1 hour and 32 minutes. It's G-rated. If you're in the mood for a family film, this is for you. And I promise you the kids will enjoy it, and they'll also enjoy the music. 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. Smurfs easily comes out at 3.5, and give it an extra star if you love Rihanna like there's no tomorrow. Smurf 2025 is directed by Chris Miller and written by Pan Brady and distributed by Paramount Pictures. I Know What You Did Last Summer is a 1997 slasher film directed by Jim Gillespie and written by Kevin Williamson. It starred Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Ryan Phillippe, Freddie Prinze Jr. And it was a very popular film at the time. Slasher films are always popular with young people for whatever reason. Well, now, the 2025 version has a group of young people who happen to be partying. They look on the side of the road, there's fireworks, they stop to watch it. Person in the group seemingly causes the accident that allows this car to go over the edge of the road. These young people are trying to avoid the car going over the edge. However, it does. Now, these young people start getting notes, and like the first picture, they're stalked by a man who has a raincoat on and a hook. Now, this is not a spoiler because it's all in the trailer. However, some of the old cast is brought back. So it's a reunion of sorts. And I think the only thing that might surprise you about this film is that they decide to make it and have a side story about a cult. And you'll see it. There was a very sparse audience that attended the viewing that I went to. The young people loved this. They thought it was great. But the older people, they kind of just said, it's nothing great. However, they enjoyed seeing the older cast members from the previous movies. So I'll just advise you to stay for the end credits, and you will get some sense of nostalgia satisfaction. In this 2025 version of I Know What You Did Last Summer, you might think there might be a supernatural element. Well, I'll let you figure that out for yourself. This man seems to be haunting them. Maybe he really wasn't dead. Maybe it's a ghost. Maybe it's post-traumatic stress. And the 2025 movie is about the same thing. I Know What You Did Last Summer is rated R. There is a little sex in it, and as in any slasher film, there's some violence. But it's not anything new. If you like slasher films, this is going to be right up your alley. I Know What You Did Last Summer is directed by Jennifer Kaytin Robinson, a story written by Lee McKendrick. The runtime is 1 hour and 51 minutes. 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. I Know What You Did Last Summer easily comes up at a 1.5, and give it an extra star if you love seeing the OGs once again. I Know What You Did Last Summer is distributed by Sony Pictures Releasing. Living on an isolated farm after a series of plagues and wars, a former soldier and her family make one last stand against a vicious militia who wants to take their land. 40 Acres is directed by R.T. Thorne. It stars Danielle Deadwyler, Katim O'Connor, Jada LaBlanca, Michael Gray Eyes, Macania Diaz-Roez, and Lena Robinson. I'll first say R.T. Thorne does a fabulous job. You can't believe that this is his first picture that he's directed. Along with Glenn Taylor, R.T. Thorne also wrote part of the script, and I'm telling you, it is fabulous. The segments are divided by title cards, so you can sort of narrate and see where this movie is going as each character arc is developed and carefully nurtured. I'm telling you now, it's a well-done film. You have some issues of cannibalism, I'll just give you a little hint, but it's because we're in a dystopian universe in which there are no livestock. That's why these people are living in isolation. It's because food is scarce and people will actually kill you to get something to eat. 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. 40 Acres easily comes at a 4, and give it an extra star if you love R.T. Thorne like there's no tomorrow. 40 Acres has a runtime of 1 hour and 43 minutes. It's rated R, and it's distributed by Mongrel Media. Don't Let's Go to the Dogs Tonight depicts an 8-year-old Bobo's life of a family's Rhodesian farm during the Bush War final stages. Don't Let's Go to the Dogs Tonight is based on a memoir of the life of Alexandra Fuller and her family on a farm in Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe. Now understand what time period it is. 1980s, the end of apartheid is near, and you have all of these white farmers who were colonizers. They had already taken over a lot of these communities that were inherently and indigenously black. They want their land back. The white farmers feel like they own the land. The black folks who were already there saying, you're stealing from us. Now, new government is put into place, so there is a war as to who should own this land. Should it be the white folks who came in and invaded the indigenous people's land? Or should it be the landowners who went through the white government and bought the land legislatively? War and violence is often hard for a child to understand. War is difficult for adults to understand because many children don't understand death, the finality of it, and the reason many people feel it's justified in any situation. So Bobo, being a white child of the white colonizers, doesn't understand why these black guys are coming along and trying to attack their families and steal their land. That's the way she feels. The black families feel the same way. Why are these white families coming along, attacking our families and stealing our land? The indigenous families, the black families that were there before the colonizers took the land over, also feel they're stealing their culture. They're erasing the history that's been there for centuries, hundreds of years. Many of the indigenous people are tied to the land in a spiritual sense. So you're also invading and desecrating their ancestors. It's a devastating blow, not just physically and materially, but also emotionally. Don't Let's Go to the Dogs Tonight is a drama rated R. It runs 100 minutes. It's directed and written by Beth Davids, and she had trouble finding people to star in it. She also stars in the film along with the great cast. You must applaud her for being brave enough. Since she had trouble finding producers and writers and directors, she decided to go on her own, make this movie, make it her film, and she did a great job. 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. Don't Let's Go to the Dogs Tonight easily comes up at a 4, and give it an extra star if you love these independent producers and movie distributors like there's no tomorrow. Until we meet again, it's Renee Stanley for Movie Review Relay. God bless.